Hello, and welcome to Here's the Thing with Robbie and Jose, where we explore relationships through a male and female perspective. With me, as always, is the lovely Robbie.
Well, howdy, Jose. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing great,
Young
thank
lady.
you. I was thinking the other day, I was working from home, and for some reason, I started narrating everything I was doing in a Southern accent, and I was making myself laugh.
I've done that before, too. Isn't that funny?
I think that everybody from the South, I reckon, can probably emulate a Southern accent, at least a little bit, enough to fool the people up north. They don't know where you from.
They don't. They just know you Southern. It's funny, though, but even with there's subsets even within Southern accents.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, there's the high-end Southern accent, and the low-end Southern accent, the Texan Southern accent. Like, there's all kinds of Southern accents.
And I bet you the other Southern accents, maybe if like, you know how like you could tell someone has like a Louisianan accent or something like that. It's
almost
like
Creole.
If you try to pretend, they know. It's like, no, you're not like us. Like this is,
But I always trip out whenever, like talking about accents, whenever I see a movie and I know that they're British and then they're speaking, with an American accent or vice versa. I know that they're American, but they have an English.
Yeah.
I'm like, sometimes it comes off as genuine because those guys like really put forth effort and they have like coaches.
Well, they say that British actors are better actors anyway.
Australians used to take that title, but lately not so much. But there used to be a lot of Australian actors that were just killing it. What? Oh, yeah.
I was telling Jose earlier a story about how I met this guy from Australia, and then I saw him the next day, and he was like, "Oi," like that. But when I said it, Jose thought I said "oink oink," and he's like, "What is that?"
Is that a saying for Australians? Like, what? I didn't even know they had a big population over there. Jeez. But yeah, it's pretty interesting accents and all. But so today's topic. We're going to continue the love languages.
This is the final one. This is
the final one?
Mm-hmm.
No way.
Yes, sir.
I was about to say no way, Jose, but I guess it is. All right.
I'll say no way, Jose. No, it's the last one.
I used to hate it when they said that too. When somebody says that to me, I used to hate it. But now
I used to get Batman and Robin a lot.
Oh, yeah, because you're Robin. Yeah. That's lame.
That's lame.
Super lame. But anyways, this last one is acts of service. Yay.
Wash this toilet bowl.
What do you mean? What are you talking about? Acts of service. So acts of service is
no, I'm telling you to go wash it for me.
Oh.
An insult.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, but
show me you love me by cleaning the bathroom.
Actually, that's exactly how it works, as a matter of fact. But no, acts of services are basically, that things that you do for your significant other that shows them that you appreciate them, right? In acts of service, for me, that one's a tough one for me because the problem with, or the challenge, let's say, not the problem. I have to remind myself not to say problem, but it's a challenge, right? Because if you do something on a regular, people don't know that you're showing your affection. They might just think that that's just what you do.
Yeah, like if you get together and let's say he always takes your car to get the oil change. Maybe you just think like, oh, he just likes to do that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe he does, right? But it's also in disguise an act of service. Like you're doing that. But that's the thing on the other side, right? For the woman, she could also think she can expect it. So she's not particularly worried about like, oh, this is how he's showing me love.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's what he should be doing. Like he's supposed to do that, right? But that's not necessarily the thing. And it goes the other way too.
That's
obviously.
A common trap, I think, with acts of service.
That's what I was saying. When I was reading it, I was like, ooh, this one you have to be very careful with, right? Because let's say, and it doesn't matter whether, if you're in a traditional or whatever male-female relationship and one of them likes to cook. Like whether it's, so in most cases, traditionally the women would cook dinner, right? That's an act of service. And so if you get used to it, you just feel like, hey, where's my dinner? And she's like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like you expect it.
Yeah.
But all this time it could be, that was how she was showing, love to her family. Cause it wouldn't just be for the guy, maybe have kids, the whole family and people, right? Whether they're male or female, even when a guy grills, there's something about like I'm cooking this for other people to enjoy and savor, and like hopefully they'll like what I've just prepared for them. So
feels good.
Yeah, it's a way of showing love.
I always like bringing something to the potluck that everybody is like raving about afterwards. Man, that feels good.
Yeah. But it again, it's an act of service, right? And so it could be because you could take things for granted really, really fast.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. If they do things for you, and this is where, I feel what I was saying, previously was that it really makes you pay attention to your significant other. Mm-hmm. If you were to look at your significant other, right, and let's say you both said that you're in love with one another, you're committed to one another, you've had that conversation, right? I think the thing that happens the most at that point is they stop paying attention. Like you feel secure. You're like, all right, we've said that, we're together. Now I got to get on with my life, right?
Yeah.
Let's check that off my box, and you know what I mean? Like check that box off, excuse me, and let me just move on, right? But that would be a mistake, right? Yeah. And I think you should pay attention, even if you're not on the same love language as that person. You should pay attention what they do. And if they do a lot of acts of services, again, they feed you, they clean up after you, they do the dishes, they do the laundry, or let's just say they take you lunch. There could be something as simple as that. Like you're at work and they're like, hey, I don't know if you have any plans, but I was planning on bringing you lunch. Do you want me to pick you up from blah, 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 whatever? You're like, yeah, bring it over.
I feel like that happens a lot with women when it comes to household chores. And I'm talking about a woman that also has a full-time job.
Yeah.
A lot of guys still think that like the house is running because of the woman. Typically, it's like we're making sure everything, whatever. If for some reason you come home and let's say the house is starting to get messy, maybe she doesn't have meals cooked or whatever, but maybe you never even said thank you. Maybe you never even showed your appreciation for all these things that the woman is doing. Mm-hmm. And we get really burnt out because we're having to take care of not only our husbands, but also the children, the cooking, the cleaning, the making sure everything goes. I don't know. Just
it's very easy to take them for granted. And it happens the other way too for guys that do that too, right? Yeah. You, like you said, it's working. And nobody pays attention to stuff when it's working.
Right.
When your car, starts up easily, you don't pop open the hood and say, what's wrong?
Thank you.
Right. You don't even think about it. You just keep going on with your day. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, it started, got me from point A. Again, you expect every time that you get into your car that it's going to turn on. You've never expected it's not going to turn on. And that's the problem is that, if there's a light coming on in your car, pay attention to it.
That's like the worst when you're going to work and maybe your battery's dead and you're like,
yeah. Yeah, because then it's a fire drill now, but it probably gave you signs before. Maybe it delayed whenever you tried to start it, or maybe it clicked a few times before it started. Like usually they give you some, or I'm getting into cars now. I don't know in that car, but I was about to say maybe there's a cold front that came through and it came really close. But anyways, that's a car.
You didn't make the car noise.
There you go.
Yeah,
it's my car. But anyways, it happens, right? And then what's funny is at the moment that you don't have that anymore, that's when you realize, they like, did
I don't know how to do my own laundry.
Yes, I don't know how to wash my own dish. I don't know how to cook my own meal. And that's when things, or even, I don't know how to pay my own bills. I don't know how to, when the car goes out, I don't know what to do.
It's
very easy to take people for granted.
One time that was in a long-term relationship and her boyfriend handled all the finances, all of their living situation, all that kind of stuff. And they were together for so long, and that's just the way it was when they got out of it. And she was, way older, right? Yeah. Like she didn't know how to like get an apartment or like she just didn't know these things. She's not dumb. It's just that if you never had to take care of those things, you don't know how to pay bills.
Exactly. It happens. And nothing will make you appreciate somebody than the absence of especially for acts of service.
Yeah.
Because those pile up on you really, really fast.
Yeah.
Again, if let's say, because sometimes it's the guy that's tidy and he likes a clean house, let's say for whatever reason, that's just the way it worked out, right? His girlfriend doesn't really care and she just throws laundry everywhere, whatever. And he's very tidy. You'll notice it. And especially if he's gone for an extended amount of time, the house will get dirty really, really fast. And you'd be surprised, for anybody that doesn't do dishes and does laundry, you'd be surprised just how fast it accumulates. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, because I got 3 meals a day plus snacks plus different various drinks. So, like, honestly, the dishes pile up, and even just for me, very quickly.
Yeah, sometimes I live by myself because when the kids are gone to their mother's house, I'm like, isn't this like the third time I've washed dishes today? Like, why am I washing dishes so much? Like, to the point, and I have a dishwasher, but I just feel like I can wash my own dishes. You know, it shouldn't be a problem. But you will find out. But again, that's what I'm saying. Whenever you get with somebody, it behooves you to really pay attention to them. Yeah. So if you see that they do all these things, right? If you notice that, man, you know, I always have clean shirts. I don't know how. Like, they just magically show up in my drawer. I thought I was out of socks, and all of a sudden, ta-da, there's a whole bunch of them in my sock drawer. Like, man, this is awesome. But if you really notice, like, that's when you should reciprocate, because that's how they're showing you. And those people, it's really hard because, let's say they do all that. It's not typically in their nature to say, look at all this stuff I do for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because then you sound like
That's real annoying.
Yeah, because... Tell me about that, Robbie. Tell me about when somebody calls out all the stuff that they do for you.
I've done it too, because I do a lot of stuff for people that I'm with. And like, sometimes if it's not appreciated at all, it does get like, bro, like, I do all this stuff for you. Can you please do this one thing for me?
But that's what I'm saying. If that's the case, then you are basically, that's to a certain point your love language, right? Because you're showing the appreciation. Now, that's what I'm saying, and that's the tricky part, is finding somebody that is close to your love language. Because if that's not important to them, doesn't mean that they love you any less, right? It's just, that's just not how they express themselves.
Yeah.
And that's the tough part, because you know that they love you. You just wish that they loved you a different way.
Yeah, it's kind of like when we talked about last week with the physical touch, when you were talking about, you know, touching your head and things like that. Mm-hmm. Like, if you really like that to me is kind of an act of service too, because it's like, it makes you feel relaxed or whatever. But if you tell them like, can you please rub my head? And they're like, I don't want to do it. It's like, but I'm asking you to do this favor for me to make me feel good, make me feel comfortable. Or you don't feel good and you're like, you're kind of rubbing your own stomach, right? And you're like, can you rub my stomach a little bit? Like, I don't feel good.
You tell me. You got to say, tell me.
I don't say that.
You don't say tell me? I say tell me all the time. Say rub my tummy.
I know. I try to ignore it when you say it to me.
Why?
Because
what's wrong with tummy? It's even called a tummy tuck. It's not called a gut tuck or a stomach tuck. Yeah, it's a tummy tuck.
I don't know. Every time you say tummy, I literally try to just be like, pretend he didn't say that. And I've never told you.
Really?
You say it a lot.
I didn't know it bothered you that much.
It's okay.
Okay, wow.
It's not that big of a deal. I'm just saying, I just pretend you don't say that word.
Note to self, don't say tell me your boobs in front of Robbie, because boobies. I know you don't boobies. You don't like when I say boobies either. So, okay, no boobies, no tummy. All right. No cutesy talk basically for you. So, okay.
Yeah, I don't like baby talk to me. I know guys like baby talk. Women don't like that.
All right. So what were we talking about?
We're just saying acts of service. It's like
I mean, acts of service. That's what I'm saying. Like acts like that right there. Again, I still put that in the physical touch category, right? Because it still requires you to touch me. The acts of service are just that. It's something. And there's a list on there. We can actually, let me pull it up on my trusty iPad here.
I hear what you're saying. I still feel that like that thing. Maybe it's in between the physical touch and the acts of service, because like if your back hurts or whatever, you know what I mean? It's just more of like, or your feet hurt. Can you please do this thing for me? I still think of it's in the middle for me.
It might be, but that's what I'm saying. So like, so I pulled this off the internet. I think it was like Women's Health or something like that is the article. And they were saying, what are some examples of acts of service? And so they have a couple of bullet points. So the first one is they refill their glass when empty. So the way I kind of take that is if you're having dinner with somebody and you see that they're like, they don't ask you if you want more water, they just go and get more water for you. Yeah. Like that right there shows, because they're doing it for you. They're not doing it for them. They see that you're eventually going to get thirsty.
Right.
So they get it for you. So that right there, that's an act of service. Now, again, it could be missed if you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
So if they do that a lot,
You're like,
and I'm not
my
saying you
drink keeps
shouldn't.
coming back to the top again.
Right, exactly. So I'm not saying that don't, right? And this is when it really puts the focus on the other person. So if I'm a person that does a lot of acts of service, I'm hoping that the person that I'm doing it for is seeing that I'm doing this,
Right.
and not just taking it for granted that that's just what I do.
Yeah.
And I can see that, like, at first it might be weird, but then after a while you get accustomed to it.
Yeah.
You're like, he always does it.
Yeah.
That's just what he does, which is great. It's a great trait. But then the question becomes, like, what do you do for him?
Yeah.
Well, I don't do it. He doesn't like it when I do it. It's like, no. No. That's incorrect. Right? Because sometimes they'll say that, oh, they like doing that for me. But it's like, well, that's how they're expressing their love and devotion to you. So you should think about that and try to do those things for them as well. So the other one is letting them sleep in while you get the kids ready and go walk the dog. So basically saying, I'm not going to wake you, stay in bed. I'm going to take care of all the stuff that you usually take care of on days like this. I'll get the kids ready, feed the dogs, take them out for a walk, make sure you have breakfast in the morning. Like, if you do that for somebody that constantly does that for you, trust me, it's going to hit them really, really hard. It's going to hit them really. And just FYI, just so that I'll give a piece of advice to both people, right? The person that does it, you're not going to ace it. Just FYI, like, you're going to probably miss a few things. Like, you probably won't do it the way she does it because you have your own way. But it's the thought that counts. And for the person that receives it, like, don't go and point out all the stuff that they did wrong.
Yeah, I told you before, I've never had a lot of men cook for me, but when they do, or if they do, like, even if it's gross, I would be like, baby, thank you. It's so good. Like, yeah, because like it is so sweet. And it's like, I appreciate the effort. That's really
right. That's what I'm saying. Because the people that do stuff sometimes, and again, that's what I'm saying, acts of service really, I had a hard time with it because I just thought of other scenarios. Because sometimes, not a lot. It's a very small group of women. Small, like tiny group of women that are control freaks. But I mean, minuscule. It's not even a percent. It's probably like a 0.001%. That's how many.
Sarcasm.
I'm laying it on
so thick right now. The air is heavy.
I wanted to make sure that you were getting it, right?
No, I got it.
But control freaks, it's not really an act of service. They just want things done this way.
Right.
And no other way. Like, this is what they like. I had one, I dated this one girl once, and she loved making the bed. She loved, and I got to tell you, she knew how to make a bed. Like, I barely make a bed. Like, as long as things aren't sticking out and not too lumpy, I'm okay with it. Like, it's fine. I don't need to bounce a quarter off of it or anything like that. It doesn't have to be military style. But when she did it, it was military style. Like, everything was precise and nothing was out of place. Everything was tucked in where it needed to. It was nice and neat and perfect.
A tummy tuck.
A tummy tuck. Oh, I can't say a gut tuck.
Yeah. Gut tuck.
And but anyways, again, that was more, she was like, this is just what I do. So I guess it was an act of service because, I mean, I couldn't make my own bed. It wasn't a problem. It was just she liked it done a certain way, and that's why she did it. So you almost have to communicate at a certain point and just ask them, like, you know, is that really important to you? Or sometimes they'll let you know. Like, and I know it sounds naggy, but it's really not. But if they're like, hey, it would mean a lot to me if you did the dishes tonight. Like, I've had a rough day, blah, 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 blah. They might ask you to do that. And if they're asking you, again, they're giving you a clue to what that is. Because if they're control freaks, it doesn't matter. They're going to still do it.
Yeah.
Or they'll say, just leave it. Don't even touch it.
Yeah.
I'll get to it tomorrow morning or whatever the case. Then, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Don't even. Acts of service is not her love language. She just wants it done a certain way, which is much different. That's what I'm saying. This one I had a hard time with.
I'm like that with laundry. Because for women's clothes, there's so many different types of washes, treatment, this, that, would you dry, would you air dry? There's all of that like would get mad if a guy tried to do my laundry. It's like, no, there's
Shrunk everything.
Yeah, or like you're putting the whites and the colors,
Yep.
you're putting cashmere in there, and it's like
Dry clean only. You're
yeah,
washing.
exactly. It's like, don't mess with my clothes. I want to wash my own clothes. Don't even, because like I said, there's things that you air dry. You know
I'm
what
with
I mean?
you. I know how to do laundry, but I'm with you 110%.
But guys typically they just dunk everything, and then the people who, I'm sorry, but the people who put in detergent after the clothes are already in there, that really bothers me.
Tell me how you really feel.
I'm just saying. I'm just trying to think of something where, like, I don't want you to do it, and I wouldn't be mean, but it's just like, don't do my laundry, please. Or can you? I know you were trying to help,
Right.
but can you not do this?
Right.
Anymore?
That's what I'm saying. If I were to hear that, then they would tell me that that's not their love language. There's something else going on. Right?
Well, I mean, like acts of service, but it could be situational. It could be
It
like,
could
here's
be.
this thing.
It could be, but that's what I'm saying. In most cases, the acts of service is not necessarily. How do I? To me, the acts of services are very specific to that one person, right? Mm-hmm. But again, it depends on what it is and why they do what they do. Mm-hmm. Because if they are like, this is my domain, and sometimes that happens too, right? Let's say whether it's a guy or a girl, right? And they're like, okay, I do all the cooking, so this is my domain.
Right.
When I get groceries,
Get out of the kitchen.
because let's say I get groceries and I get certain types of groceries. I have to get this, and I like getting that. I look for this, and when you go. Sorry, you get garbage. Like
Yeah, you come back with Oreos, Doritos.
Yeah, or even the produce has got holes in it, or it's like rotten halfway, and they're like, dude, did you even look at this? Like seriously, how far did you go to select this? Did you just grab the first one you saw? Like what? Come on. Like anyway, so my point being is that like you get it. It's good intentions, and like I said, you have to be very careful because you don't want to. Like overcorrect and like,
I'm
dude.
saying a soft approach of like, baby, that was really sweet that you went to the grocery store, but next time, do you think you can get this thing?
Right.
Like this is the list that I need, or be sweet.
That's what I'm saying. So you do have to be sweet, but you don't know why they're doing it. So it could be that they just derive pleasure because some people do that, right? Some people like they take pride in their kitchen and everything that they have set up, whether, they have all their ingredients where they want to, they know where to get to everything, and they love feeding their family. Like they just love that. The act itself that they really like is the feeding part,
right?
But it all goes into it. And there's a certain, like let's say it's a man and a woman and the man stays home and the woman goes off on a business trip. And then the kids are like, hey, we want spaghetti. And then you try to make spaghetti and they're like, the first thing they're going to tell you is, this doesn't taste like mom's spaghetti. What did you do, Dad? Like, how did you screw up spaghetti? Like, I've seen her cook it. It's not very difficult. But anyways, the point being is that it is, right? Like, she does something to it. There's something about the way she prepares it.
Made with love.
Maybe so. But like, again, my point being is that you'll feel it almost immediately. Like, oh, yeah. That's a.
We miss mom's
thing.
cooking.
It's funny. I was watching a movie. I think it's called Crazy Stupid Love, something like that. It's got Ryan Gosling and Steve Carell.
Oh, okay, I saw it.
Yeah, and so one of the ones that I like. So in the movie, Steve Carell's character is separated. He got separated from his wife because she had messed around on him or whatever. But anyways. And it's Julianne Moore it plays his wife or whatever. And so they're separated and she calls him up and he knows like it was weird. So I'm not going to get into the weird part. But anyway, she calls him up and asks him how to light the pilot light on their heater or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it had nothing to do with that. She just wanted to hear his voice and stuff. Mm-hmm. But she knew that was something that he did all the time. Mm-hmm. And so she just wanted to hear him. And like, so I can see that too. And in the movie, I think they try to make it work out.
I guess if you were trying to get back with an ex, you'd be like, my car won't start.
If that's what their thing was,
come
yeah.
And see?
Yeah. And you see that a lot. I've dated women that had just recently broke up. And the way that they justify keeping in touch with their exes is like, oh, well, he likes doing this, or he always did this for me, or things like that. And it's weird, but
stupid. It's like if I was dating a guy and he said, "Oh, by the way, I still keep in contact with my ex because she files my taxes, you better get someone else to file your taxes. I'm sorry, but no.
I mean, come on. She filed the taxes. What? We can't do that. We can't.
No,
file
you go
the
to H&R
taxes.
Block.
That's not a thing. Oh man. Well, hopefully I'll find a girl that's okay then.
Would you be okay with that?
No, absolutely. I wasn't okay back then either. Just FYI. But that's what I'm saying. That's how they justify it. Is that they provided a service, if you will, that apparently they and they only are able to do.
When you have a breakup, it's like the store closes down. You can't go back to the store to get your favorite pair of pants because they're no longer in service anymore. You go to the new store, the new shiny store, aka the guy you're dating.
But the new shiny store doesn't have those kinds of stuff.
I know.
So it's different.
It's always nice to be with a guy who knows how to fix things. That is a perk, let me tell you.
Hey man, you can't have everything.
When you're single, you gotta call like men for everything. You're like, oh, my light doesn't turn on. My
Plumbing is the worst.
Dude.
Plumbing is the worst. I hate doing plumbing. I
need to
it,
get a plumber friend. That's what I need.
I hate it. I remember one time I knew this lady friend of mine, and her husband was a plumber. And even he said, she was like, yeah, every time we have plumbing issues, he calls a plumber. Because he's like, he doesn't like doing it. But he did it for a commercial company. But he was just like, nope, not going to do it. I know exactly what. Yes. And he knows, I know exactly what it entails, and I am not going to do it. I will pay somebody to do it.
Isn't that weird how you like may have a job that you didn't know you would hate so much until you leave and you're like, man, I would never do that again. I'm like that with sales. I was in sales back in the day. And let me tell you, like, that's not something that's fun. Like, I'm never going to do that.
I used to think that way. I like sales now. Well, I mean, I don't do it now, but like,
I hate that salesman mentality. It's so grimy.
It depends on how you approach it.
Well, I don't like it.
The key, just FYI, I know we're going way off topic, but the key to a good salesperson is to ask a lot of questions. So it would translate over in relationship because you would have to ask a lot of questions, and then providing them.
I'm
service.
a fantastic salesman. Then, I just don't like it.
But the thing about it is the true tale of a good salesperson is that if the client leaves away like happy with whatever it is that they purchased, if you can pull that hot trick off, you're fantastic because they just keep coming back for more and more.
I don't
and more.
like it.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. So for me, that's what I'm saying. For a tip for guys, it's not very different than that. If you ask your partner the right questions and you pay attention and you provide them with what they're looking for and love them the way they want to be loved, the whole world becomes your oyster.
You know what they should have for men? I don't know if this exists. Like a mini course for men of like basic how-tos for fixing things around the house. You go to like a 3-day seminar. Are you serious?
There was a guy, and this was a great, oh my gosh, it's a little bit heartbreaking. I don't know if you heard about this guy, but there was a guy who was diagnosed with a terminal cancer. And his son was little. I think he was like an infant or a toddler or something. So he decided, I'm going to make YouTube videos on all the handy stuff that needs to be done for the purpose of my son. So he started making videos on plumbing, fixing cars, fixing things around the house, cabinets, screws loose, the light fixtures, all this stuff. And people just started watching it like crazy, and it blew up. I don't remember exactly what happened to him. I think he's okay. I think he was able to. I don't know. I don't remember, but my point being is that they have such a thing. If you go on to YouTube, you can pretty much.
No, I mean like an in-person thing.
Yeah, like Home Depot does it too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Home Depot does a thing where, like, let's say you don't know how to do stuff around the house and you want to put tile down, but don't want to get a contract, you want to do it yourself. They have classes, or they used to anyways on the weekends, and they'll be like, okay, this is how you mix things up. You want to make sure that the edges are there.
I need to go to those things. I didn't know that they did that.
Yeah, they do that for flooring. Again, I don't know if they still do it. I know they have contractors there too, but yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, just like common household things. Like I said, I would say the majority of women love to have a guy around that can do those things. It's just a nice perk. And
yeah. I mean, I like doing it. Well, let me rephrase that. I do it because I had to. There was nobody to show me how to do stuff, so I just had to figure stuff out. And once you figure stuff out, it is great when you can fix your own stuff. Honestly, nowadays, I'm at a point right now where I'm just like, if I need something done, I'll just pay somebody to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good. I don't have anything to prove to anybody. My active service is that I will take my credit card out and swipe this thing, baby, and you won't have to pay for a dime. It'll get fixed. How about that? So,
was that what you would do? Like if you're in a long-term relationship and she lives separate from you and she said, baby, something's wrong with my plumbing, you call a plumber to go over there?
It depends. I would probably, me personally, I would try to go out there and see if I can fix it.
Okay.
And if it's outside of my skill set, I'd be like, yeah, we need to call a plumber because I know what to do. It's one thing to know what to do. It's another thing to execute that.
Yeah, you don't want to burn our house down or something crazy.
With plumbing, yes, that'd be hard for me to
I'm
do.
just thinking of just anything.
No, when it comes to electrical, I don't touch it.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be weird if the house burned down? They'd be like, we found the culprit. It was the toilet or something like weird.
Yeah, I don't know how you did that, sir, but you screwed that one up. But no, yeah.
Awkward.
Typically, when it comes to like electrical and stuff like that, I'll get professionals to do it because that's a little more dangerous and it's outside of my skill set. But plumbing, most plumbing things I can fix.
Because there's an easy out. If something goes awry, you just shut the water off.
It is, but you'd be surprised because again, we're way off topic. Okay. But when it comes to water, there's a lot. It has to do with pressure.
Yeah.
And if you don't get things right, it gets really messy.
Yeah.
Really,
but having
really
a guy around for acts of service. So, what kind of acts of service?
Yeah. So another example is preparing them a nice meal or randomly take them out to a nice restaurant. So again, it's like, hey, baby, I know you had a long day. Let's take you out.
Yeah. If you had a long day or a bad day, whatever, the last thing you want to do is come home and like figure out what to eat. It's just like,
well, if your love language is acts of service, you already know you're going to go home and you're going to cook for your family. But if you had a long day and it's like, hey, we decided we're going to go out, or even just getting pizza sometimes is like, you don't have to worry about cooking tonight. I know it's not the best and it's not healthy, but you probably...
Who cares?
Yeah, at this point, like you've had a rough day. Let's
get pizza.
Let's get some pizza, and then do that. Do the dishes or help out with other household chores. That's another one. This one was weird. Unpack their suitcase after a long work trip so that one less thing for them to worry about. So I don't know why you would unpack. I mean, that seems extreme. Like, I don't know, because I wouldn't care if my significant other unpacked mine. But again, I know that when y'all travel, it's a whole other thing. You carry way more accessories than we do, right? Like,
and guys don't know where anything goes. They don't know where to put everything back.
That's true. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's weird because I
can't fathom someone try to unpack my luggage.
It's the other challenge of acts of service, because if that's your default and that's how you express love, that's great. But if you don't know how to do that, it's very akin to the gift giving. Because again, if that's your jam and you know how to give a good gift and you put a lot of thought and time and effort and so forth, and the person that doesn't, it's hard because they're not very good at it.
Yeah.
And they might not ever be any good at it. I know sometimes women say, well, guys, because this is a trick. It does happen, mind you, where guys will do a chore. I don't know how to do this. They do a chore and they do it so horribly so that they don't get asked to do it again, right? They're like, I'm going to do it so bad.
We all know this trick, guys.
But sometimes, I will say sometimes, it's not an act. We really don't know what we're doing. We're out of our depth. Again, you can YouTube stuff and you can look at things, but you're right, unless they're taking out each pair of garment and they're looking at it to ensure that it's safe to wash and how it should be washed and whether or not to dry it, or if it's dry clean only. If they don't go that far, they're going to ruin your laundry.
Yeah.
But if let's say that they are conscious about it and they do it, right? Like that's something they do their own laundry and they've learned from their mistakes. It might be okay. But no, so I'm not talking about when they genuinely screw up though. They genuinely, they really didn't mean to mess up your tops there and unpack. So no unpacking your.
Yeah. I honestly, now I have a recovered memory because I remember back in the day, I was dating someone that did that and they had washed something that was silk and it ruined it. And I remember being so upset. And I think that was my triggering, like, nope.
I'm trying to think if I've ever ruined anybody else's clothes. I've ruined my own. But I don't think I've ever ruined anybody else's clothes. Because most of the clothes that I do is for my kids. So they wear the same stuff I do, shirt,
T-shirt.
jeans.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Women have a lot of delicate things.
I do too, though. I get a lot of cashmere and wool stuff, and
But even like pantyhose, tights, even our undergarment, there's a way to wash these things. There's a process. You can't just throw your bra in there. Like,
throw it in there, man.
No.
Don't worry about it. It's just, I don't. It sounds too crazy for me. Another one is nursing them back to health when they feel sick. That one was weird though, because I would think that every significant other does that.
I've never had a man take care of me when I was
serious?
sick. Yeah.
You serious? You're really being serious right now?
Yes.
Ever?
Not that I can recall. I mean,
Please go into your memory bank, because it can't be that there was no guy that brought you like chicken noodle soup or.
I mean, maybe that, but like to really nurse me, like you're in bed, you're kind of off and on sleeping, right? Let's say you have the
Yeah.
fever, right? And they go in there constantly to make sure you have water, make sure
Yeah.
you take. I don't, maybe, but I don't.
No, that's so sad.
I don't get sick very often either, so maybe it's just been too long.
horrible.
I say that now I'm going to get sick tomorrow.
That's horrible that you say that. That's not a good thing.
Men
Bringing
don't.
me
Men
down.
don't
It's a
do these
bummer.
kinds of things.
Yes, they do.
Most men don't.
Yes,
I've dated
they-
more
well,
men than you. Okay,
Fair enough. But
so
I really hope you're wrong about that, because I've done that before. I
I'm
mean,
not saying
obviously, if
it's
we're living together.
Yeah,
but,
I'm not saying it's impossible. And maybe that too. I mean, I only lived with one person back in the day. Maybe, but
I would imagine that that's just standard. When I saw it, I was like, doesn't everybody do that? Like, why wouldn't you not?
yeah,
do
I guess
that?
they would. Like I said, the food thing. They probably offer like, hey, you want me to drop something off? Like, I get that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe when I'm sick, if I'm sick like that, like I don't even want to be bothered. I just want to be wallowing in my bed and just I'll get
but
over
that's what I'm
it.
saying. But if you're living with somebody, like you would expect that the person is going to take care of you.
Yeah, maybe. Like I said, I
I
don't really.
hope so.
I haven't lived with anybody for a very long
All
time.
right, because that's usually when if I'm dating somebody and they get sick, it's different, right? Because most of the time they're like, no, I don't want to get you sick, so don't come
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
Which is fine. You can still order them food. You can still do
Yeah.
small little things here and there. But if I'm living with them, yeah, stay in bed. I'll bring you stuff. Like I don't need you.
Yeah.
Because then you're walking around and you just look miserable walking
Yeah.
around. And there's nothing worse than watching somebody that's sick just walking around miserable. I'm like, go back to bed.
No,
If you need anything, just let me know.
yeah,
I'll bring
I have
it to
had
you.
people get like medicine for me or something. Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, good.
When you say no, I'm just like I said, I'm more envisioning like a bedside table kind of like that kind of service.
Yeah.
Rather than like, yeah, I've had guys, I guess, get me food or like, hey, I'll go get you some medicine.
Well, so here's the other part too, and maybe this kind of stumbles on to something a little bit, because if that's the case and you're nursing somebody back to health, again, and I know everybody's different, everybody shows love different, and every relationship is different, so I'm by no means, whatever, but that would tell you if they're not helping you get better, like, I don't know. I'm not saying that they don't love you, but I don't know, man. things aren't looking good, because typically when you love a person, right? You love that person. You want to see that person do well. You want to see them get better. And when they're hurt, you want to bring them back to whatever, you know what I'm saying? Trying to get them out, trying to ease their pain. But if you're like, yeah, she's sick and I'll worry about her later.
I knew a guy that was in a relationship with a female and he had gotten food poisoning, and he told me that he was like laying on the bathroom floor. Like, I mean, he was super sick. And I think he had maybe either he asked her to do him a favor or maybe she just didn't offer. She didn't go to see him once. She didn't bring anything. She don't. And he broke up with her for that. He's like, this just shows me that you don't care. I'm telling you, I'm laying on the bathroom floor. I feel like I want to die. And you're just like, well, okay, I'll talk to you later. Like,
Text me when you get better.
let me know when you want to go out party again. 'Cause
Wow. I probably would have done the same thing. Like, if you genuinely don't care enough to like any of that stuff, or even ask if I'm feeling better, like, yeah, it's hard though. It's hard because again, friends typically will do that because they care about you. They're like, hey, you doing better? You doing all right? Like, is there anything I can get you and stuff like that? But yeah, if they can give two toots,
two toots.
then it might not work out. That might be Mr. Right. No, not so much. So this one was what you were talking about. Offer to give you, one of the other bullet points is offer to give them a massage when they're feeling stressed or sore.
Yeah.
So in this case, right,
they do say it's an act of service.
it is, yeah, but they're offering it. So this is how you would identify somebody that acts
rather
of
than having to
services.
ask.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So they would say something like, "Hey, I see that you're upset or whatever. Do you? Sorry, would you like a massage or a foot rub or something like that?" And then they're like, "Yeah." So again, when the shoe's on the other foot, so to speak, right, and you see that they're stressed out, you might want to say like, "Hey, I see you're a little stressed out. You want a massage? Make you a bath, whatever they're into."
Take your girl to get a pedicure, man. It's the best.
Why is that? You say you don't like people grabbing your feet.
I know, but I try to just deal with it because I like the pedicure part.
When
It's
they're
the
painting
foot
it?
rub part.
Well, tell them not to rub your feet.
I usually do I don't want that part. I just want all the callus part and the shaping and the all that kind of polishing or the little mask.
I've had a pedicure once. I was okay with it. I don't think I would ever go back. But I did
but
it.
You
it
have
was,
to think about your feet, though.
I do. But also, it was one of those. It was the same girlfriend actually. She just kept on trying to do new things, and she was like, "Let's try this out." And I was like,
"Fine." That girlfriend must have been acts of service too, right?
I don't know, kind of. She was just showing me different things and it was getting me outside of my comfort zone for sure. And I was like, okay, I really don't want to, but why not? In the spirit of trying new things, let me try this out.
Yeah,
it was fine. It wasn't
now you
bad.
know you like your hair being played with or whatever.
Yeah, but the pedicure is not so much. I did like the manicure part of it. I did like that part. So I might go get a manicure, but just not a pedicure. I just feel bad. Somebody's getting paid to touch my feet.
Oh, it's the worst. I feel so bad for those people. I'm like, this is a horrible job.
No, don't get me wrong. If they like it, but yes, oh man.
Is there people that really like to scrape off dead skin from feet?
I don't know. I don't want to ask because it would be horrible if I asked and they're like, no, this is torture for me.
If you
and
meet
I'm
like a nail tech or something, ask them like, do you like your job?
Well, like masseuse, people that give massages for a living. Again, I would hate to have to touch people all day long like that. And I like physical touch. Like that's one of my love languages.
Yeah, but you don't get to choose who you touch.
Right, exactly, right? But there's people that derive pleasure from that, right? And maybe
people feel good.
Yeah, and then maybe they're good at it too. So for them, it's not a big deal. So I don't know. But for me, no, I would not be. I would not be good.
I guess it's the same thing with what you're talking about earlier with like the chefs. Like people get very passionate about food. So if you love to cook, you may love being a chef and you love to cook at home. It's just what you love. And so it doesn't feel like a chore. It doesn't feel really like an act of service because you love it so much.
Right. And that's, but it is. And so you have to be very careful, right? Because in that situation, because they're so passionate and they're good and they're experts, like that's their forte, so to speak, right? So if you make them a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, they're gonna love it. Don't get me wrong, they're gonna love it. But again, you can't do it the way they can.
Yeah,
you'll never be able to do that. But again, it's the thought that
like
counts.
The people who put the peanut butter and jelly all in the middle and not around the sides of the bread, like covering the whole bread. Yeah. There's nothing worse than biting into a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and you get just bread. There's no, and everything's
Who
gobbed.
Does that?
I have had someone made me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich one time. Everything was globbed in the middle of the two pieces of bread. So when you get to the middle, it's oozing out and it's gross. It's like,
I think he was trying to just do it so he never had to do it again because that just sounds.
I've never even asked anyone to make me a sandwich though.
There is no way that a guy himself
guys
eats a
don't
sandwich
care.
like
it's
that.
like it's all going to taste the same going in. Like they don't
Not
care.
The pieces of bread. I don't know. It just seems weird. It just that one hopefully didn't last very long. If he can't make a basic peanut butter and jelly sandwich, really? Jeez.
I just think that some guys don't care. It's like it's all going in my tummy. So it doesn't matter in what presentation it's in.
I mean, I will say this. I'm more about. I'm not big about presentation. I'm more concerned about functionality. So whenever I give a presentation at work or anything like that, or even if I'm cooking, I'm not trying to make it pretty. I just want to make it tasty.
You don't put like a sprig of something on the plate.
No, I don't put no garnish or try to make a little wave with
those little dots with the sauce.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I get it. And it does make it look a lot better in presentation. I understand the utility of it. I just don't care for it. Like I could care less. Even with my cars, I used to be really bad. So the outside would be just really dirty because I don't care. It's taking me to work.
I'm like that too. I like the inside to be clean because that's where I am. The outside, I don't care. Unless I can't see. It's like so dirty. Like I can't see out the window.
Right. So I'm the same way. So, but every now and again, I'll take care of the car and go wash it because I'm also a dude. So, now this one was interesting. Run errands for them. Now the problem with running errands for somebody is, again, just depends, right? Because they might depend on the errand, whether it's getting groceries. So I'll just use groceries for that matter.
Okay.
There are certain things that whoever does the primary shopping knows what to get and how to get it. Like they're just familiar with it. Because you can give somebody a list, and unless it's very specific, and you have to be very specific. Like let's say you're getting eggs and it has to be like cage free, and they have
send them a picture,
organic. Well, no, because that's like gonna last forever. Because like if you just put eggs, and then you go to the store and you get the wrong kind of eggs, right? Because you get the medium size and they're just the store bought ones of the generic brands. They're gonna come back like, what is this? They're like, what are you talking about? They were on sale. Like we don't eat.
There's
these.
no yolk in it.
Yeah, like we.
Can you imagine all 12 eggs with no
Did you
yolk?
not read the card and it said no yolk?
It says yolkless.
But we will mess it up. That's what I'm saying, unless it's very specific. But luckily nowadays, and I'm digressing a little bit, is you can go on most grocery stores have apps, and you can just plug in what you want, and it'll take you exactly to that. And then,
but yeah, like you said earlier, the guy that comes home with a moldy fruit, he's just like, he just picks whatever's on top.
So you could mess that up. But if it's a like say the other way around, right? They say the guy usually takes a car and they go get serviced. And anybody that's ever taken a car to go get service knows that it's not a fun experience. It is not a fun experience. You have to sit there. You're going to be paying out the yin yang. I don't care if it's just a simple oil change. And then secondly, you're going to sit in the lobby there, and you better have brought a book or your headphones.
Or have someone you can call.
Something, because it's going to be a long, depending on how long you need to stay there, it might be an hour, a couple of hours. They could take you home, but then they're going to have to pick you up. So that's just, it's hard to get anything done.
I hate the waiting rooms for like car places. They're the worst. It's like National Geographic magazine and horrible coffee. And then like there's one TV and it's on a station of something you don't want to watch.
Yeah. You just have to sit there. And that's what I'm saying. And even at that, like sometimes you have to be really careful because like you go to the service desk and let's say you're there for an oil change and they'll be like, oh, you need this. And when's the last time you got one of these? And what about this? And if you're a guy, let's just say that that's just something that you do all the time. You kind of already know what's needed and when, and you also know stuff that you can take care of yourself, like an air filter. Air filters, they'll charge you at the dealership like $60, $70, and that includes installation, which is nothing. Or you can go to an auto parts store, get it for $20, install it in less than 2 minutes, and you would have saved yourself a bunch of money. So even that's what I'm saying. If it's not something you do on a regular, you go out there and they were like, oh, you need a new air filter, you need a new one of these, and you need new windshield wipers and all this other stuff, which maybe you do, but there's a cheaper alternative. And if you don't know, you just be like, all right, just do it. And then you get home.
Or you may just don't want to do the effort. You're like, just do it now. So I don't have to go and buy the stuff.
But that's what I'm saying. You have to be really careful because if the guy does it all the time and then his wife is like, hey, you know what, baby? I want you to stay home, watch football. I'll take the car in.
She comes back, $300.
Yeah. You're like, wait a minute. What did you do? And she's like, well, they said we needed this and that. And then so that's when it turns into an argument because you're like, man, like we didn't do it. But you have to be very careful with that because, again, it's not their fault, A. And then B, their heart was in the right place. Yeah. And so that's the reason why you do what you do. So that's what I'm saying. Acts of services are very difficult to reciprocate.
Yeah.
Especially if the other person does it a lot. It's very difficult because you just don't know how, like physical touch is pretty simple. You just touch each other, right? And then words of affirmation, you can tell somebody that you care about them, how much you love them and how much they mean to you. It's not as awkward, but again, an act of service is difficult.
I have the same thing with gift giving because that's my love language. and most guys I've been with that they don't care about that, it's really hard because I put so much love and effort into finding something for them and they just really don't care because they just, it's not, so it is, I know it's not personal, but it still hurts a little bit. It's like, come on, man. Like,
and that's, I think a lot of fights start that way sometimes because again, their love language is mismatched a little bit, or they're trying to reciprocate, but they're not doing it in the way that you want it, right? Because that's the problem. When you're an expert in something and then they try to do it for you, it's gonna peeve you off a little bit because you're like, dude, this is not how you do it. I get like you try to be nice and you're like, yes, even at the peanut butter sandwich, you just bit into a bunch of bread. Like, dude, this isn't a sandwich. This is just 2 slices of bread. But the point being is, again, if you go too hard on them, they're going to be like, I'm just not going to do that anymore.
Yeah,
right? They
like,
just
this is
give
disgusting.
up. Yeah.
How dare you put all my jelly and peanut butter in the middle?
They give up. They essentially give up because they're like, I can't do it right. I can't please you. There's no please. Then it turns into a fight. And
I'll
that's
be
where
like,
you
babe,
have to
let
be
me
ready.
make you a sandwich. Let me show you how I do it.
Well, you know what?
You put it
Let me
all the way to the
explain for you.
No, just sweet. You're just like, babe, look, you put it all the way to the edge, and then you give them a nice sandwich.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. But I think this is what I've kind of taken away from the love languages thing is that if you pay attention, you will see what your partner's love language is, right? And I think if you have a conversation with them and say, okay, look, you're this is how you express your love, and I express my love this way. I'm not very good at the way you express it. That's not really my thing. I will try, but just know that I'm not very good at it. And vice versa. Like, I understand that from you too, whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to try, but I also understand that it's not yours. I think you have a chance at that point because now when they do things or don't do things, you understand it's not from a lack of love.
Yeah.
It's from, that's just how they express themselves.
Yeah.
And that's how, so they're going to show me their love in a different way, whether it means a lot to me or not. I know that I'm being loved, right? So in the gift giving, if you're a gift giver and the other person isn't, then it's like, okay, whatever their language is, if theirs is physical touch or words of affirmation, as long as they're doing that to you, then you know, even though your primary is gift giving, you still know, oh, they care about me.
Yeah.
Because they're showing it to me differently.
Yeah.
But I have to interpret that and I have to like take that apart and be like, oh, those are things that they're doing for me and
that's kind of what I'm taking away from all of these too, is just like, it's so hard to speak in an other language from your own. It's very difficult. Even, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I find myself making a very like conscious effort to give them what they need for that thing, even though it makes me not uncomfortable, but it's just like, it's not really my thing, but I try really hard to do that. But still, you have to constantly think about it. Like, if it's affirmations, like, okay, I need to say something positive every day to this person. You have to make that effort to remember.
Yeah, it's very difficult. For whatever reason, I keep on thinking of The Simpsons because, and I don't know what their love language is because obviously it depends on what season you're looking at, but you can always see a mismatch between Marge and Homer and how she expresses, because hers are acts of services for sure for the entire family. And to a certain degree, so is Homer. But it's different, right? So for him, it's just going to work and providing and stuff like that. And then whenever he's forced to do stuff for other people, like Lisa wants to go to a museum, he's like, oh. But it's his daughter, so he does it, right?
Yeah.
Like he gives it the best that he can because he's not interested in any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about it, right? And it's the effort that they're putting in. And that's why, that's why they love their dad, right? Because they know he's a doofus for the most part. He likes drinking beer and watching TV. That's his thing. But he'll try.
Yeah.
He's just going to fumble at it. He's going to fumble at it really, really bad.
I think as kids too, just like the kids on that show, they kind of judge him a little bit because he's not good at those things. But when they get older, these are fictional characters. But if they were real, when you get older, you're like, my dad always tried.
Right.
So you look at it differently when you're older.
Yeah. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like it's if you find two people that are both good gift givers, then maybe, or find people. I think it's a lot easier, to be honest with you, to find two people that are physical touches their primary language. Yeah. Because that one's almost human nature. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you can't get away from touching. Like we're just social creatures. Yeah. You know what I mean? Getting a hug from somebody. Imagine nobody ever hugged you. let's say they were there for you, they were comforting and they were around your proximity, but they just didn't hug you.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how lonely you would feel if nobody ever came up and just gave you a hug? You know what I'm saying? That would be, and don't get me wrong, there are people that, if let's say you're on the spectrum, but even then I've heard like it makes them uncomfortable if they still want it. You know what I mean? It's like
they want it, but it's hard for them sometimes.
Right. They almost like miss it, but at the same time, it's very difficult for them to even engage in that sort of stuff because it's hard. And for me, that's the torturous part for people that are on the spectrum, because again, they have all these emotions, they have all these feelings, like they want all this. Like, it's the human experience.
Yeah.
It's just the way that their brain is wired, or whatever, is different. So it's going to come out differently, and they're going to express it differently. So that's what, if anything, like I said, a little bit of empathy on everybody's part, right? Because obviously, we wouldn't get mad at somebody that's on the spectrum for being the way they are. You're not going to say, hey, that's a bad way of being. You're not going to do that. I think even with people that are not on the spectrum, right? Let's say you're in a relationship, you should also not fault them because you have a love language that they don't have.
Right.
You shouldn't get mad at them to say, well, I wish you were more touchy-feely. You can do it in a very gentle way.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it means a lot to me. I know it's difficult for you, but, and let's say that other person's like, I'm going to really put forth effort. It makes me uncomfortable, but you know what? I really care about you. I really love you. And I really want to whatever. So I'll put forth the letter. That's one thing. But it's like if you're getting mad at them, and the one that really comes out, again, is the acts of service. This is a hard one because if you do the dishes all the time because nobody else is going to do it, right? Later, like, if I don't do the dishes, it's going to stay there forever. Then it turns into a fight.
Yeah.
And then you're like, dude, can you help out with the dishes just once? Now the way you're communicating is like, now he's going to be combative. He's going to be like, wait a minute, why are you attacking me? You know what I mean? And the dishes become different. Like, it doesn't even matter. Now you're going into a whole nother thing. Like, I constantly do things for this family and you never do anything. And it's like, I do stuff, right? Like I do this stuff. And then it turns into this big fight because you're literally comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah.
Because he might be saying like, well, yeah, we spend time together all the time or whatever. He's like, yeah, but you don't ever do dishes. And it's like, okay, well, that's your clue right there. I'm not saying that he would never do dishes, but that's just not, or maybe the acts of service that he does aren't going to be dishes, but then there'll be like little things around the house that you don't even think about. They're like, hey babe, the cabinet door's, loppy or whatever. Can you go in there and fix it? He goes there and fixes and that's it. Yeah. You don't even think about it anymore. And the next time you open it up, it's working, or the garbage disposal's clogged up or whatever, and then he takes care of that. But my point being is that you should learn and pay attention to your partner and see what they do, and just understand that they might not always reciprocate with the exact same love language.
I really hope we get to a point where they put this stuff on the dating apps. I think this would be extremely beneficial to list what yours is and how you define it. I think it would be beneficial.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, we got AI, and I don't want to get into the whole AI and Chat GPT and all the different things. But I think that if it works correctly, I think it will help out humanity. I mean, like with any new technology, it could either be beneficial or it could be just devastating, right? Yeah. The phone doesn't care one way or the other, but you could be used for evil, like bullying and talking noise and this, that, and the other, or it could be used for good, where you
call someone you care about.
Well, you call somebody you care about, or let's say you're at a scene of a fatal crash and it's in the middle of nowhere. Where back in the day, if you didn't have a phone, it's just not going to work unless you know CPR or a trained nurse or something, or a doctor. You know what I mean?
I was talking to somebody the other day about MapQuest before we had GPS. And like, I remember having to print it out, and you're on the highway trying to turn on your light and you're trying to look at the MapQuest as you're going down the highway. And that's just dangerous.
That's when you needed a partner to drive with.
Yeah.
You needed a partner because one of them had to navigate and the other one had to drive. And one of them had the map, and hopefully they knew where they were going and they told you what exit. And yeah, it was fun. But you know what? That itself was also a way to figure out like your partner. Because if you could get yourself in a jam and get yourselves out of it without fighting, that was a good thing.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. You're going to probably get upset along the way because that's just human nature. But how you react to stressful situations will tell you a lot.
Yeah.
It's essentially, I mean, it's literally a stress test.
If you're stranded on an island, the last thing you want to do is be with someone who's just screaming and not doing. It's like, okay, we're here.
Right.
Let's focus and figure out what are our next steps. Like, can you please?
I want to yell. I don't want to do next steps. I want to yell and throw coconuts around.
No. But yeah.
And kick sand. And then after about 20 minutes of that, then we can figure stuff
Well, maybe
out.
you have a little reaction, but I'm just saying, people, they can't handle it. So they may be on there for a couple of days just wallowing in the situation. It's like, no, dude, let's make a coconut radio.
Yeah.
Like, let's get some things on the ball.
No, and I think, in the, I had talked about this before, about, when little boys back in the day, they used to just get into fist fights, right? And it was a stress test. It's like you're in a very stressful situation, but if you can keep your composure and still fight clean, so to speak, right, then you know that you were a trustworthy person, right? So in sports, bring that out in people too, right? So if you're in a team and one person isn't picking up the slack, right, that's a stress test. They'll figure that out, and most of the time they'll let you know, like, dude, get your stuff together. And you can find that out whenever you're in a stressful situation with your partner. Let's say you went on a vacation and they lost your baggage, and all you have is what you have. Like, again, that could be just hard. It had all your toiletries, it had, stuff that you needed, laptop, whatever it is that you checked at your. And so you could fight with one another. Like, it was your fault. I told you not to check it, and I don't know why you packed it. Then it becomes a problem, right? Versus, all right, here's a situation. We're in it. It's going to be tough, but maybe we can find, more clothes. We're going to have to buy some toiletries. We'll call the whatever. And if you work together, typically you'll get out of it a lot faster versus you're such an idiot. I can't believe you did that. But I don't encourage that. But yeah, this was good.
Yeah, I like talking about these. I think it's good. It's a good topic for relationships, or even, like I said, if you're newly dating, I think you could tell a lot about a person, like I said, also too, how they define it.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, for me, and I think this is the theme I think everybody should do this. Really pay attention to your partner, your significant other. If you pay attention, if you really, really pay attention, they'll tell you everything you need to know to make it successful. And if both people are doing that and they both take notice, and I remember one time I met this older lady, and she said, because she didn't like seafood at all. And they would go out they had a beachfront property, and he would go out fishing. Or sometimes they would go out to the market and get seafood and stuff. And she was like, I hate it, but he likes it, so I cook it for him. So I don't mind. And she already figured out how to cook it, and he cooked it really well, and he loved it. But she didn't care for it. So to me, that was a true act of service, because she's cooking something that she does not like at all. So, like, imagine not liking onions and then making a dish that's but you do that because you care about the other person.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you. And if both people live that way, I'm telling you, it's sky's the limit with you and that person. But anyways, it was fun.
Yes.
Yay! All right.
That's me. I'm clapping.
I was like, is somebody at the door? What happened?
No, that was me. I'm
Was
clapping.
that the sign for the cops to bum rush in and take me down? Where's the camera? What's good? What did I do? No, this was good. Really enjoyed it. Had a good
Yes.
time.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Till next time.
Bye.
All right. Bye.